Kelly Alexander Show is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Janet Jackson's phenomenal album, The Velvet Rope, by speaking to the people who were involved with the album and the world tour. We are so happy to welcome vocalist extraordinaire Stacy Campbell to the show, who performed with Janet during the Velvet Rope tour as one of her backup vocalists and has continued to have a successful career in music, including working with artists like Cher, Tina Turner, and most recently, Pink. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us on the Kelly Alexander Show.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to gush a little bit right off the top. I've been searching for you for years, so I'm happy we finally were able to get you on the show. And I guess I wanted to start off, just for people who might not know, did you know that a career in music was going to be in the cards for you since you were sort of like a kid?
Well, it certainly was my intention, ever since I can really remember. I used to take the cushions off the couch and pretend I was playing keyboards with my friends, singing along to all the music that was on the radio at the time. And it was just, I always wanted to be, I always just say, I want to be a rock star. I want to be a rock star.
That's awesome.
I got pretty close. I got to hang out with a couple rock stars, so that was pretty good.
Can you tell us what you consider your first big break in the industry to be?
I would say my first big break was in I'm going to date myself. It's okay. 1992.
Okay.
I was working with an artist, Layla Hathaway at the time, who really sort of got my foot in the door after college. And she opened up for the artist Al Jarreau. And Al Jarreau did, that's my first time that I ever got out of the country and went over to Europe with Al. And we did a tour together, and when Layla went back into the studio to record, Al Jarreau asked if myself and the other two singers would join him as his background singers. And then it just sort of went from there.
Now, can you tell us when you actually first hooked up with Janet? Because I know you did a couple of tours with her and were with her for the 93 tour, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I worked with Al Jarreau in 92, and then in 93, Janet was holding auditions. And it was sort of an open audition. To a sense, it was an open audition. There were probably about 20 singers, maybe 28 singers, that auditioned for her in groups of 3. And the musical director at the time sort of pieced together these, sections of 3 singers at a time. And my memory of it was that really Janet could have picked, one singer from each group. But me and the other 2 singers got together. I didn't know them at the time, but we got together and we rehearsed and we rehearsed and we rehearsed and we rehearsed and we prayed and we meditated. And in the end, in the audition, she picked all 3 of us. And so that's how I joined the Janet tour.
That is fantastic.
And it all went from there.
Now, when it came time for Velvet Rope, which was obviously, several years later, because I think you guys wrapped up 95, the Janet tour, because I know it was kind of like an 18-month-long situation.
Yes, that's correct.
When it came time for Velvet Rope, did you sort of think you had an in already? Were you obviously doing other things? So I don't know how that kind of played out, how you got the chance to come back.
Yeah, we all went off to do other things, and let me think. For my part, I was working with another artist that was managed that had the same management as Janet. And when 98 came around, to be honest, I don't really know whether it was her saying, yes, I want all these people back, or whether it was management saying, hey, all these people are available. But it wasn't the same process as the first tour I did with her, where we had to audition or anything like that. I was actually asked to join back on the tour. And I think the majority of that band, save for maybe one guy, was the same.
Wow, because I know Little John was with her for a long time, continues to be, so I know like a bunch, and Rex obviously was a part of that as well. Can you talk to us about, I guess, like maybe the initial part of rehearsal for Velvet Rope? Like, how did that sort of roll out? Because I know obviously she had a lot on her plate, not only having to get time to rehearse with you guys, the band, but also obviously all the dancing that was going on. So how did that sort of play out, sharing Janet with everybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mostly what happened is the band did a lot of rehearsals on our own. And in fact, even the vocalists, Rebecca and I would sort of go off and work on picking parts and, just working on harmonies and different things like that, how we were going to approach each song. And while the band was doing different things like programming and et cetera, things like that. And then the whole band would get together and we rehearsed for quite a while she was in rehearsals with the dancers, with choreography, and probably doing a whole bunch of other promotional work and stuff like that, supporting the album. And then we all got together band and dancers for what's called production rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where we sort of get together and they work out their choreography with what we're doing musically and, do we have to chop these songs up here or do we need to lengthen songs here? And then as the show sort of starts to come together, then you really sort of fine tune it for do Janet need extra time here to make a costume change or, do the dancers need to, how do we arrange the songs so that the dancers can, make their changes and things like that. So it's one of my favorite processes about the whole tour because it's really the most creative time, that happens there because once the show is set, then you're kind of just, doing the show and sort of feeling the audience and moving from there. But it's a really fun, creative time because you have to sort of work very quickly to sort of, make adjustments as far as what the artist needs.
Joining us on the Kelly Alexander Show is talented vocalist Stacy Campbell. Make sure you follow her on Instagram at Stacy Campbell 514. And by the way, I think it's awesome that you have 514 in your Instagram because my area code is 514. So I was like, maybe she lives in Montreal and I don't know.
I've been channeling you.
That's exactly it. So if I can bring you back to the process for vocals for you and Rebecca for the Velvet Rope, like were you working with Rex to kind of figure out what harmonies you needed and how did you and Janet sort of all come together, like all four of you sort of figuring out what needed to be done on each song?
Well, we had the songs, of course, that we were going to use. And from a previous tour, some of the songs that we had done from the previous tour, I had a good idea of what parts she was looking for, and what parts we actually did on some of the older songs. As far as some of the newer songs, it was just really a matter of sitting down. Rex sort of gave us our marching orders about what we should be doing. And Rebecca and I sat down, having never worked together. We sat down and sort of just song by song by song would listen to the parts and say, okay, how about you take this part on this song, I'll take this part on that song. And then, then we'd go home and do our own homework and then come together the next day and sort of work out that song. And then, okay, if we felt good about how that worked, then we would move on to the next song. And then we would all get together with the band. And then, if it felt good, then we would keep it. And if we needed to make little changes or if Rex had any suggestions, then, we would sort of take it from there.
When you guys were sort of put together with everyone, like when the dancers sort of came to you guys and you guys were in those production rehearsals, did I guess there was tweaks and stuff that had to happen too? Because I know I've spoken to Tina before and some of the other dancers, and like I know that sometimes with regards to the band, there'd be like a cymbal hit or whatever, and that would mean like a high kick from one of the dancers. So I guess you guys had to adjust that way as well?
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, that part of the process is so much fun for me because it's a really creative process and it's a really sort of spontaneous as well. It's really when the band really comes together as a unit, because everybody's off learning their own parts, and sort of doing their own homework, and we're sort of just going through the songs. But really, once the dancers get there, and then especially when Janet gets there and we're all together, that's when you really get an idea of how each song is flowing, how the song flows, one song flows into the next song. And so, where maybe we might have added some extra vocal parts towards the end of a song, just to sort of flow into the next song, or like Little John and the band would make certain hits that are related to what the choreography is doing, and then, especially what Janet's doing, if sort of maybe she might have recorded the song one way, but if she's singing it live, she might phrase it a little bit differently. And so as a singer, then we'll say, okay, right, so let's jump on that and let's sing that phrasing with her.
And can you talk to us, I guess, about staging for you guys? Because, like, I know obviously you guys have the moves going on up at the back part of the stage, and how does that get worked out? Like, did Tina come have a little chat with you, or you guys just do your own thing?
I think we pretty much did our own thing. We were just sort of feeling the music. I know if there was some choreography that we could catch, Tina was always supportive about that. She's like, hey, if there's like, if we're doing something and you could do that with us and not have it get in the way of your singing or anything like that, then join us. So some songs we would join in on. Otherwise, it was just,
them doing
stepping and swaying.
I wanted to ask you as well, because I should have probably even started off with this. When it comes to the Velvet Rope album itself, Stacy, what's your actual favorite song off of it, and what was your favorite song to perform on stage?
Oh my gosh, I was just taking a walk down memory lane myself. Straight off the bat, You. I loved that song. Mm-hmm. I think it's on that album.
Yes, yeah, correct.
And what else? What else was on there that I really loved? I loved watching the dancers do You. I thought that was a really powerful song. I would say that's it. That was on Velvet Rope, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was when they were on the skateboards.
Yeah, I just love it. It had so much power, so much syncopation in the music, and just like a really cool song. And I loved how the verses are sort of spoken with this sort of, this like if you were speaking in somebody's face, you know?
Yeah.
I really loved that song.
And I wanted to ask you as well, because with regards to the Velvet Rope tour, like my audience right now that's listening to the show, they know how important that particular tour was for me. For some reason, I loved all the tours, but that one really spoke to me, I guess. And I remember, obviously it was such a big opening with the Velvet Rope tour opening the book, and then all of a sudden, the band and the dancers there. Can you explain to us, being in your position, what it's like to sort of those initial first moments, when the show starts? What's it like for you guys as the band?
Yeah, I'll say first, Kelly, that this was one of my favorite tours of hers, too.
Okay.
I just loved it. I just thought everything about it was really great. It was just so beautiful to look at. I thought the choreography was amazing. I thought the set list was awesome. Of course, I'll say the band was awesome.
Yes, agreed.
And but it was just, and coming back, and so many people were coming back, even though there were some new faces as well. There was just something really, it felt like a family. We were all getting together, and it was just a really wonderful experience. It's one of my favorite tours as well, that she's done and that I've done. But, seeing the book for the first time for us in production rehearsals was like mind-blowing. It was the coolest opening to a show I had seen. I mean, it was just really cool. Mm-hmm. And just before any show, I mean, like I said, the set list was pretty much the same. Every now and again, we'd put in a song or take out a song, change it up a little bit. But the show itself sort of runs, in the same order every night after you get out there on the road. So really the biggest difference is the audience, the feel of the audience, the cities that we would go to, and the reception that we would get there. And you would go into some of these venues and just feel the electricity from the audience, which is really inspiring and exciting. Each night you would come into a different place. And so, that was my feeling. It was always an electric. There was electricity in the air all the time. And
can you tell me as well, because I had this conversation with Jimmy Jam, and I'd love to get your point or perspective on it, especially because you were up on stage with her. That part in the show where I think it's like one or two songs in when she stands there and just the spotlight's on her and she doesn't move for like 3 minutes and the audience is going absolutely bananas. I remember at the Detroit show, I got to go to that one too, and I was very fortunate. I was able to be right up front, and in that moment, I actually turned around to see what she was kind of experiencing, to see what the audience was going absolutely bananas. What is that like as her colleague and her friend and seeing that? Because it was mind-blowing to me, and I wasn't even up on stage.
I mean, that brings up a couple feelings for me. One, I was always so happy for her because she deserves that, And so it was always nice for her to, it was nice for me to witness all that energy coming towards her, at the start of a show, I'm sure it meant a lot to her too. But I always found that really cool. And I'm glad that she took the time to actually let people adore her, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Instead of just, okay, and now we're moving on to the next song, to take that moment and to absorb the energy of the crowd right as she's getting ready to just give them everything that she's got, Mm-hmm. So I always enjoyed it, just really vicariously through her. I really loved watching her get all that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad because I've always wanted to know what the perspective was like from someone that was on stage with her, and I know you guys were sort of just waiting at attention, I guess, before you would kick into the next song. But it was mind-blowing to me, so I can only imagine what it was like for you guys on stage. And furthermore, to Janet herself, can you explain to my audience what she's like as a boss and a colleague?
Oh, I love her.
That's great.
She's lovely. We were in rehearsals this one time. It was really funny. So like I said, the band does a bunch of stuff. The dancers do a bunch of stuff. Janet's off doing everything, And it was one of the first times we're all going to get together. It's and we want to do a really good job, right? We want to show her this. we're kicking butt here. This is going to be awesome. So Janet comes in from dancer's rehearsal, and she comes to sit down, and she's just sitting in a chair, facing the band, and we're going to go through some of these songs here so she can hear what's going on. And honestly, I can't remember if it was me or if it was Lil Jon. Something happened, and we just hit like a little glitch, because we're in rehearsals and nothing was locked down perfect. It might have been me, and I sang a note that was off. Oh my God, I remember exactly what it was now. You remember on the song "You," where she says E-C-N-E-I-C-S-C-O. You know how she does that?
Yeah.
I totally was singing the wrong words. I don't know what word it was that I was spelling, but I was just sort of listening to it, and I sort of did what I did. And she has monster ears, Janet. She has monster ears. She hears everything. I mean, and her songs have so many nuances, percussion and, all different vocal parts and different harmonies and all this different stuff. But she hears everything. So she's sitting there very calmly, and, we finished doing that song, and she says, Stacy, what are you singing there? And so I tell her what I'm singing, and she's like, what does that spell? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it spells. This is just what I thought I heard off the CD. So she told me what it was, and then we had a good laugh about it. And then there was like a little bit of a pause, and she said, you're fired. And I cracked up. Everybody cracked up. It was hilarious.
Oh, my God.
So she's very, she's so much fun, And I mean, she's just a real genuine, she's really sweet. She's a really hard worker. She really has monster ears. She knows exactly what she wants to hear. And nothing's going to get by her. But she's not like, her energy is not this big like somebody like a Tina Turner. She's not big and in your face about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Her energy is sort of subtle that way, So I love her. I enjoyed working with her.
Can you talk a little bit about Janet, the vocalist? Because I actually had this conversation as well with Rebecca and I'm sure obviously being a Janet fan yourself for all these years, everyone always talks about her dancing ability and what a kick butt dancer she is and all that stuff. But I find oftentimes her vocal abilities are glossed over. As someone yourself who has worked with, first of all, you're an amazing vocalist, and then people like Tina Turner and Cher and now Pink. Where does Janet, where's Janet placed for you? How is she as a vocalist?
What I love about Janet, listening to her music, and what I really loved about working with her is I love the harmonies that she brings. There's so many layers. The harmonies that she has, they're so dense. And on pop songs, a lot of times that stuff might sort of get overlooked because it's sort of in the background. But if you just sit down, I'm sure you have, to listen to any of her songs, the harmonies that she uses and the way she layers her harmonies throughout a song, where, say, the first chorus might not be as thick. The second chorus is a little bit thicker, and then there's maybe some other little harmonies that are put in, and then by the end of the song, they're all sort of sitting on top of each other, working, interacting with each other, all these different harmonies. And I just love how she approaches the harmonies and, and backgrounds to songs and things like that. I really do. I think that she's really special that way. There aren't a lot of artists that do it like that. And just vocally, she's great. She writes songs that have such strong melodies that are really catchy. And but for me, it really is the harmonies. I think that she's a master at that.
And knowing that you've been on all these other tours with all these other amazing artists, where does Janet sit with that? Like just like the experience that you had? Because I've interviewed Kelly in the past, and Kelly Kono, and she has talked about how it's just different being on tour with Janet. Would you agree?
They're all different. I would say, Kelly. All of them are different. But working with her was special for me because it was like I got exposed to so many things. Just like I said, working with those harmonies, working with an artist that powerful, traveling around and seeing all of these amazing places that her tour took us to. It's for me, it was right in the beginning of me getting started in my own career. So it has a real special place in my heart.
And from, a fan's perspective, it's 20 years later, do you view like, because I know her fans are called Jan Fam, obviously, and are they like a different breed as well? Because it just feels like, again, I've interviewed a ton of artists, and they all have their special fan bases, but it seems like Janet's fan base is different. Have you noticed that again, being on the different tours that you've been on?
I mean, again, I'll say, every artist is different, and the fans that follow them have different energies, probably because, each artist sort of speaks to a different part of somebody's soul, maybe. Mm-hmm. So, Janet fans were fun because they would turn up in the strangest places. Like we'd go halfway across the world, and there was a group of people that we saw, in Philadelphia or something. We'd be in Tokyo, or there was this one group of fans that, literally followed us everywhere. And it was so, you end up developing friendships with these people, mm-hmm. which was really kind of a cool thing. Awesome. They're diehards. Y'all are some diehard fans, Janet fans.
And how did it feel like, Stacy, every night, being introduced by Janet on stage? Like, it must have been just such a thrill. Yeah,
some artists, they don't take the time to acknowledge, the people that are up there with them. So it was a really, it's really special when an artist does that for you. And she took the time every single night. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
And I'm not sure when the last time is that you actually spoke to Janet, but if you could leave a message for her now for the 20th anniversary of Velvet Rope, what would you like to say to her?
Oh, Janet! Mama, I love you. I'm so happy for you. You're just one of my favorite people. I think the world of you, and I just wish you all the happiness that you could muster in your life and continued success, my friend.
Now, Stacy Campbell fans, where I know you're with Pink, is that I'm sure gearing up for a tour? Is that where we can see you next, Stacy?
Keep your fingers crossed with a tour. We're actually right now doing promo work with Pink for her upcoming CD called Beautiful Trauma. Mm-hmm. Keep your fingers crossed for a tour, Pink fans and Janet fans. Give her a try. Give her a listen.
Stacy, on behalf of the fans, I just want to thank you because, especially for Janet fans who have been there for the long haul, knowing that you were on the Janet tour and then being on the Velvet Rope, and it was a joy for us to watch you on stage and all the magic that you guys brought together as the band and the dancers. Mm-hmm. It was fantastic. So on behalf of the fans, just thank you for making so many magic moments for us.
Mm-hmm. I'll say, when people love each other, it makes it really easy to do that for folks. So, and we loved each other, so it was easy. And Kelly, thanks so much for bringing us all together, and thanks for letting me walk down memory lane with Velvet Rope.
Oh, it was awesome. It was so great to have you on the show. That is the amazingly talented vocalist, Stacy Campbell. Make sure you follow her on Instagram at StacyCampbell514. Hey, it's Kelly. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching and listening to our interviews. We always appreciate your time. Please make sure to follow us on our YouTube channel and also hit up our website so that you can subscribe to our newsletter so you are always up to date with everything that we have got going on with the show. KellyAlexanderShow.com/subscribe.